Hello, Joel here. I'm dropping in at the start of this episode of the podcast to give you a little warning. Please be advised that the following discussion features language and themes that may not be suitable for all audiences. In this entertaining and candid discussion with Mik, we discuss painkiller dependency, addiction, and touch upon topics such as suicide. Although not graphic in their description, listener discretion is advised. If anything discussed in this episode of the Joel vs. Arthritis podcast affected you, please see the show description for links to where you can get support based on where you are listening to this from. A huge thank you to Mik for sharing his experiences with us, and to you, our audience, for listening. Guys, in the UK access and disability space, tonight's guest pretty much leads a little introduction. Musician, broadcaster, journalist, probably one of the first people I saw on TV as a kid in a wheelchair who was also in a wheelchair. And today an access and inclusion advocate, co-CEO of Fab UK, and joins us straight from their very own disability talk show that I was watching just a few minutes ago. So thank you, Mik, for getting over so quickly.
Joe, next time we'll get you on. And then that will help him pay you back.
And then I'll do the rush.
And then you'll be the one going, no, I've got to go.
So thank you for joining us. I've probably missed loads in the introduction, Mik. You've done so much. For anyone that's not come across your work, we'll get into the health stuff in a bit, but do you want to maybe just give a quick overview for anything I've missed there?
Yeah, no, my life reads a little bit like, you get those autobiographies where people write it and you go, this doesn't add up. There's no way he can have done all this. He's, admittedly now I'm nearly 60, so kind of I have had long enough to do it. But I started off. I've always been disabled. I was born with cancer, which left me with a limp. So I kind of was a walking wounded and became a wheelchair user at 15 because of a side effect of the cancer treatment. Don't want to go into too much, medical stuff. But basically, so I was walking about and I had all the pressures that kind of my non-disabled friends had about work and stuff. And then I found when I became a wheelchair user, that kind of went away because everyone didn't expect me to be able to work or anything. So I went from being a very working class boy and expected to work in a factory or in an office. I think my mum wanted me to be a draftsman. So I did lots of technical stuff. I hate maths. I hate physics. And I did maths, advanced maths, technology, physics, all this. Oh, God. I wanted to do art, but I wasn't allowed. And then I became a wheelchair user and all of the posh jobs, sensible jobs said no. So I said to my parents, I'm going to be going to do something I enjoy. I want to, follow my dream. So I became a musician. And for a long time, I did music, both sort of like gigging in bands, but also writing songs for films and adverts and television and stuff like that. And doing a gig in my hometown of Luton, my computer blew up on stage. So I fixed it and told jokes. So imagine, Billy Idol on wheels telling jokes to an audience full of very, very drunk casuals that didn't really want to see my music anyway. And luckily there was a guy in the audience that was a TV producer from Thames Television. And he just came up and went, that was amazing. I just watched a guy in a wheelchair fix a toaster. And you were funny. Would you like to do a screen test? So in 1989, found myself presenting television opposite Toyah Willcox, like one of my teenage crushes. So, and that went on and on and on. And I did a load of telly. And I was, like you said, a lot of people who are adults now that were disabled, I was the first time they'd seen anything like me. There have been disabled people before on telly, but not like me. I was really outrageous. I was really confident and I still meet people today that go, I saw you and I thought, wow, you're so not like what I was told my future would be, that I realize I can do whatever I like. And so they had the same kind of revelation from seeing me that I had from being told I couldn't work in a bank or an office or something. And that went on for ages. But then I had a car accident and broke my back again in the car accident, which meant I had to take time off from telly. And telly is one of those industries where if you're not always there, you're forgotten almost immediately, especially because it was the swap over between no internet and the internet.
Yeah.
And so suddenly, if you weren't online, you didn't exist. But putting old stuff online was really difficult at the start, if you remember. So basically, everyone went, "Who are you?" And there was new people like, Adi Adepitan and stuff came up. So I stopped doing telly and thought, well, what can I do? And in the meantime, I'd been working more and more and more in accessibility. So I started doing that, and I retrained, went to college and got, sort of trained up in that, and went and did that professionally. Did that for a few years, and I can still travel around the country going, I designed that, I helped design that, I did that. But I found that I was doing the same thing over and over again. Like anyone that works in disability campaigning finds themselves almost having to have a record that they just put on in their head that they explain why something needs to be done that way over and over and over again. And I started to think, well, part of the problem is the people I'm meeting don't know anything about being disabled. So I need to teach them that rather than argue for the umpteenth time with an architect as to why a flight of steps might look pretty, but it needs to be associated with a lift. So, because the people don't, some of them just really don't get it. It's like, I've not been taught this at my unit. I spent 9 years being an architect and no one told me about this. So I started teaching. So I went into training. And now I kind of, that's my main focus now, is training people to understand equality. And while I was doing that, I started working with the charity Fab that kind of run clubs and experiences all over the country where disabled and non-disabled people get together and do whatever they want. It can be a little local club where you play bingo and have a chat, or it can be going on a holiday where you try mountain climbing and, scuba dive. I don't know, like all the different things that you wouldn't normally do. We've got a great film of a little girl flying a plane. We do flying days.
Right.
And this girl is blind. She's visually impaired. And you get things you're told you're never going to do. Yeah. Well, she was obviously told, well, you're never going to fly a plane. Obviously, you'd think. Well, we got her up in a plane and then she flew it. And there's a little bit when she lands and they interview her, and you can see she's kind of going, I don't believe I've just done that. If I've done that, what else can I do that they told me I couldn't do? And it was that moment. And that's the kind of thing I got involved for. So my job with them is to bring, it's a 65-year-old charity. So it's got a few bits about it that are a little bit old-fashioned and out of date. And we're bringing it up to date. A lot of young disabled people probably go, I don't want to be involved in that. It's not really for me. Well, it will be, basically. We're going to move it into the future so that it does all the stuff it does now, but it does a lot more. And that's the plan. So that's where I'm at now. But talking about chronic pain, after my first spinal problem at 15 that put me in the chair, I started getting very high levels of chronic pain. But I've had 2 car accidents since then, 20 years apart. So basically never get in a car with me. And I've broken my back twice in car accidents. So I've had periods where the pain got really bad. One was 20 years ago, and I'm going through one right now, where the neuralgic pain that I get is kind of turned up to 11. And I haven't properly left the house for longer than 20 minutes in nearly a year because of the amount of pain it causes. And today I've just bought a Batek power attachment for my wheelchair. And today I went out for a wheel in it, which is kind of the furthest I've been from my house since August the 14th last year. So it's like, ooh. But yeah, and I do a lot of work about chronic pain. I kind of write a lot of articles, and like your good self, go to conferences and stuff. The other thing I've done is take part in a lot of trials for things, because one of the things we all find, isn't it, is that there isn't any real functioning support. What do you take for chronic pain? You'd think if you don't experience it, that the medical profession would be, chronic pain, here is a load of things that will help you with it. And in reality, that is a myth, and you only find it out when things start hurting.
Yeah.
And the longer they hurt, the more kind of you just go, well, can someone just invent something that stopped me feeling pain?
and it's rough as well, because as somebody who went through, I've had pain right back through childhood, but my big thing was 2019. There was a mess up. We would go into that in too much detail. Treatments changed, and I was left in this permanent sort of neuropathic pain. And that first experience of keep taking your painkillers, and you think, well, this is not a long term. And clearly, there's lots of studies out there and things where it isn't a long term thing. But unfortunately, in that moment, you're looking for that, like, you want a magic bullet, don't you? You're programmed. You break your leg, you go to hospital, you get it fixed, sort of thing. Yeah. It's such a horrible, lonely place of sort of no hope to be in, isn't it?
Do you know what, though? I think, because there's lots of studies that say taking painkillers long term doesn't work. I don't agree.
Yeah, certainly.
I think that what you do is you take them in the dosages that you're told to take them in. Yeah. And I always think that's much higher than you should be taking. And you find yourself almost being knocked out by them. So you spend your life in a kind of haze.
Yeah.
And because I'm like, like I said, I'm lucky. I celebrate 42 years 2 weekends ago, being paralyzed. And so 42 years ago, this, neuropathic pain you're talking about started. Mm-hmm. And so I've found that what I now do is I take just enough to actually make an impact on the pain, the normal day-to-day pain, that doesn't knock me out and make me, because we've all been there. I remember taking some painkillers once, and the only bit of my body I could feel was my nose. And I remember just sitting there going, because it felt so weird. Everything else is gone. And it was like, but that's not a functional level of life. No. You can't be, I don't feel any pain. I don't feel anything. I can't think. I can't get off the sofa. I can't focus properly. But it's not good. So what I do now is I take just enough to have some kind of impact on it. And and I think this is one of the things about chronic pain is you're expected to put up with a level that is your level of okay. And I think that no one tells you that when you go to your pain clinics for the first time, when you're lucky enough to finally get to it.
Yeah. Well, one, be told that they exist as well, and then two, be able to, so many people don't know they even exist.
Well, you say that. I don't think I went to a pain clinic for the first 25, 30 years of my life. I've never heard of it. And it was only when it was like, oh my God, it's so bad, I'm actually thinking of blowing my brains out. They went, oh, trying a pain clinic.
Yeah.
Since then, I've been to quite a few. And I don't know about you, but I find them almost entirely staffed with people that have no idea what they're talking about. And each pain clinic I've been to has given completely different advice. So I went to one that said, because what I get as well is I get like a standard level of sort of ouchiness. Mm-hmm. And then I get this, what I call breakthrough pain, where the nerves get shocked.
Yeah.
Because my nerves are trapped in scar tissue and in like broken, damaged bone. I've got an X-ray of my spinal column, and like most people have a kind of spine that you can see through with the spinal column running through, and mine is about the size of a pea. So all of I don't have a spinal cord injury where it's severed. I have an incomplete spinal cord injury, it's called, where my nerves still work, but they're so badly crushed that stuff doesn't always work. So like I've got sensation in my left foot, but no function. Mm-hmm. So, but what can happen is I can twist to reach something, and then the nerves get crushed because they're being twisted in this tiny little space. And then that can turn it up to, I always call it my spinal tap level of pain, where it goes up to 11. It's like an unbearable level.
Yeah.
And I sort of equate it when I'm talking to sort of specialists. I say it's a bit like you're in a room and then someone starts shouting in your ear, and they shout in your ear, can repeat all day, all night. And you can't sleep and you can't think. And so when that happens, I've had pain clinics say, just take everything. Just take whatever you like, sleeping tablets, morphine, codeine, tramadol, do the lot, right? Because it'll only last for say 5 days, and then you can come off.
Mhm.
But then I've had other pain clinics where just taking 2 more doses of my cocodamol than I normally take, so taking 10 instead of 8, have them freaking out because that means I've taken too much paracetamol.
Yeah.
And it's sort of, and it makes you realize that really your pain clinic is only ever as good as the people in it. And so you could be the same person in a different part of the country or a different part of the world and have totally different advice.
Yeah. And the way as well, it's like, I think as well that it integrates into the bigger picture. So like I've had an awesome experience with my pain clinic, and I do voluntary work to basically talk to new people to say, look, I thought this was a load of hippie rubbish as well, but stick with it and it might work. But the difference for me was I went from a doctor who was just like, take your painkillers, to then another group of people that were like, but have you tried this, or have you tried incorporating that, and like almost like giving me the pieces, and it doesn't always work. And I think that's the thing for me. My big step was getting away from that there's a magic bullet, and accepting that there sort of wasn't. So I think for me it's like I like being an informed patient. I don't know about you. I wanted the education, and once I had that,
annoying like that.
yeah, and then suddenly I had a bit of control, and by having a bit of control, I felt like I had options. Because for me, I just need to have hope when I'm in a load of pain. I don't know about you, like knowing that tomorrow wasn't going to be the same sort of thing.
Ironically, I mean, it's funny because in the last 2 or 3 years, I think something has probably happened in my brain chemistry, because I now find when it gets really bad, I get really, really scarily depressed. And I have to watch myself, and it takes all of my effort to not, just like walk in the kitchen and stick a knife in my throat. It's really weird. It never happened before. It's happened now. And, my wife talks about it like she sees it happen. She can see it. It's like a switch where it happened some Friday night. Friday, I got off the sofa, twisted funny, and was floored by how much I was dropped to the floor because it hurt so much. And then I had to kind of, and she was out and she came home, and I was just like manic with how much it hurts. And so that's a new thing that's happened. And I found that it's not that useful. But before I was one of the test subjects in the UK for mindfulness for pain. There was a group of about 8 of us that kind of got together, and we went, and you had your sort of talking moment where we all shared our experiences, and then we had a guided mindfulness moment, with a little gong thing.
Yeah.
Gong. Okay, let's all breathe, and I always, like you, thought that a hippie old bollocks. But being an old punk, it was like, oh,
same.
But the thing is, ironically, mindfulness is great as long as you can be mindful.
Yes, if you like, because I describe my pain as noise, and that sounds like you're very similar. And if you can get out of that place, otherwise it won't work.
I think the thing is, when it's like normal pain and you can think, you can do mindfulness.
Yeah.
But I found that when it gets really bad, you aren't mentally capable of doing the whole, going into yourself and scanning your body and thinking about what's hurting and what's not. Because all you're doing is just thinking, make it stop. And you would, genuinely, my wife has finally stopped me from hitting the bits of my body that are feeling like it's hurting. Because basically the nerves get damaged, and then it tells me that a part of my body, my lower part of my body, is hurting that isn't hurting, but it feels like it is. So, my legs can hurt, my knees can hurt. Recently, it started that one of my testicles will hurt, and it'll be like, it's not, I know that's not real, but it feels like someone is just drilling into your testicle with a power drill. And I used to just hit my body, and she found me hitting it with a hammer once and said, right, that's it. I've got to watch you, because you're going to end up hurting yourself, to stop it hurting. Because I found that if you overloaded the nerves that were firing, they then sort of almost corrected themselves, because it would be like, oh, no, now it really is hurting. Oh, right, okay. And it would stop hurting. But then you ended up with kind of really damaged legs that you'd really... So mindfulness is kind of cool. I also did visualization.
Mm-hmm.
That, think of a sea, think of it. The
Yeah,
pain is
leaf
the
going down the
wave.
stream and all that.
The
Yeah,
pain is the waves,
yeah,
and you are making the sea level. You are the breeze stopping the wave, making it calm. Or the other one is the pain is an entity, and envisage the entity, put the entity in a box, and then
yep.
travel the box down your body, out of your body, and away, and all this kind of stuff.
And then
And
boot it over the fence.
yeah, and the thing is, they all kind of work.
Yeah.
But the truth is, I think that one of the main problems is that pain is the worst pain you've had is the worst pain you've had. And I think that everyone's pain is different. This was something that really came out of the mindfulness session, because there was, like I said, about 8 of us there, and you'd got three of the people there were dying of cancer. So, I mean, I felt terribly sorry for them, because it was like, but by the time you perfect this, it's going to be over. So what a pain in the ass. What you want is effective drugs, which is something that really has not been researched. The idea of finding a drug that just stops the pain function in your
That
body.
allows you to function.
And they go, oh, but you need pain. It's like, no, you don't understand. Right? I need to know, yes, I put my hand in a fire. Right? That's bad pain. Oh, I've hurt my fingers or something. But when you're in the kind of pain we're in, it would probably be better to feel no pain and go, right, I've got to be a bit careful around fire and, milling machines. And I'm not going to go around banging nails into a wall in case I break my thumb, because I won't feel it. But it's better than having pain that is so unbearable you can't function. So I don't understand why they don't spend proper money on finding a drug that stops the chemical nature of pain. I regularly say to my neurologists, just cut the nerves. Loads of my friends that have got complete spinal cord injuries don't have this problem with pain.
Yeah,
they have spasms and but they don't have pain because they don't feel anything. I can't feel my right leg. I can feel my left leg. So my right leg very rarely hurts. My left leg hurts all the while. And it's like, I know which one I prefer.
Yeah.
So,
I think what's really refreshing about this conversation, I hope people watching it back or the ones joining us live get from it's like, pain isn't just like pain. So like you look at how different our experiences have been, how different our experiences of managing that pain has been. But weirdly, there is still that sort of like point of convergence where, like, I know I'd followed you for a long while on Twitter, but there was a period where you had, it was that new injury or whatever, where I could see, oh my God, he is thinking just like me. Like that whole, like my wife who's in chat sounds very similar to your other half, where you sort of need them caregivers to give you that different perspective and raise the alarm, because I was just getting to that point where I can't deal with this noise anymore. And so my thing is scratching, just like being really honest. I probably should be a bit trigger warning, but anyone who's been here before should know this by now. So like I won't know I'm doing it, but she'll see I'm scratching, or I'll wake up in the morning, there's a load of scratching. And it's not, I suppose it is self-harm, but it's more of a distraction than self. Do you know what I mean?
I'm covered in like things like that, like keloid scars from where I pick at things, because I mean, what's funny is that chronic pain can give you a lot of the same things that you'd get if you were, say, autistic, stimming, like they're picking and they do things, and because of the fact that you're no one's mental capacity is working at anywhere near full function if you are that heavily distracted. And whether it be the issues of neurodiversity that you might face, or whether it be pain or whatever, the impact on your mind is the same. So you do end up doing some weird things. You do, like you're saying, my wife, grumpy, not, I don't know, the person you are in private and the person you are in public are very different, I find. And I think that many people who have chronic pain, people go, well, you don't seem like you're in pain.
I hear that all the time.
Or you have a moment where they see it, and then they're like, oh, are you all right? And you're like, yeah, no, this is me all the while. It's just I don't normally let it show. I remember being in a pub with some mates, and since this last car accident, I really must stop driving. But I've had this thing where the nerves have been damaged because the base of my spine is now collapsing because of this car accident, and it feels like people are sticking needles in my legs, different, and they're needles and swords and knives of different sizes and different temperatures, and I can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was sitting in a pub and I just sort of reached down and I started rubbing my leg because, you know, rubbing the bit that hurts to always remind you that it isn't actually being stabbed or pulled or burnt or ripped off. And it's good to remember that because it really feels real in your head.
Oh, I get the hot. I feel like one leg is in a boiling bucket of hot water, and it generally feels like water on my skin. It's weird,
it's weird, isn't it? Do you know what? It started off with rats eating my toes.
Right, yeah.
And I could feel them nibbling. And I'd wake up and go, oh, and then pull the covers off and there'd be nothing there. And I'd be like, oh, for God's sake, it's just, you know. And it's shocking how your brain, I mean, have you ever put your leg into a vat of boiling water? Probably not. But your brain tells you. And I'm almost like, is this what it's like to remember a past life? Have you been boiled alive in oil? Have I been
in my medieval times?
and skewered on pikes and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, this is past life regression. But it's weird because they are so real. And I think that, so, you know, I was there and I was rubbing my leg and I looked really grim. And my mate of mine said, are you all right? And I was thinking, this is what I'm like, you know, this is, you know, it's different pain, but it's not unlike the pain I live with all the while. And yet people don't know. And they kind of, which I think is funny because then what happens is you meet other people who can't keep it quiet for whatever reason. And they're like, well, you can't be in the kind of pain I'm in because I'm on. Oh,
because you're not vocal.
And don't you normally find there are people that have hurt their knee? I don't want to play like pain top trumps, but I always find that the ones that kind of accuse you of making it up are the ones that have got something that we could only dream of.
Yeah, trust me, as someone who's had arthritis since they were 10 years old, if I hear one more time about someone's dad who's a plumber who gets a bit of knee ache, I'll just scream. It's so regular.
It's funny actually because I mean, I'm obviously after so many years in a wheelchair, I'm starting to develop arthritis through overuse, not you know, not like genetic,
not inflammatory,
functional arthritis. And I've been quite shocked at how painful, how distracting it is because the electric shock pain. Oh, I'm just having something stabbed through my foot right now. The electric shock pain is like that. It's like, whoa.
Yeah.
But the arthritic pain is kind of like, it's a bit like someone, so you've got someone shouting occasionally very loudly in one ear. Arthritis is more like someone just shouting constantly.
Yeah. Or just tapping you on your shoulder all day.
Like,
just like
I think the thing, because I always think we do this as well, is we underplay it.
Yes, 100%. 100%.
I think it helps
protect our loved ones, and you know, and I think if you dwelled on it too much, you'd go mad, wouldn't you?
But it is, I think, because we go, oh, you know, someone tapping you on the shoulder, and you think, that'd be annoying. But what you've just done is underplay it. It's like someone tapping you on the shoulder with a razor sharp, pointed, stabby finger. Yeah, right. It's clad in an iron glove that weighs about 4 stone, and it's going into your shoulder, and it's all. Do you know what I mean? And I think that that's something that we do. And it is, I think, a mental sort of coping mechanism.
Yeah, preservation kind of thing, isn't it?
And I think that's what, every now and again, it gets too much. And I think that's when we can dip mentally. You know, our fight has been... But do you know what? I've been really thinking that what it is like is torture. What we're going through. If you were captured by the enemy and you were being tortured, this is what you'd experience. You know, I watch films and they're like, right, I'm going to break your fingers now. And you think, well, I've broken my fingers. It wasn't as bad as some of the other. I've broken things and gone, this is all right. So compared to what and I think that, so basically, it's almost like we've kind of got into a Stockholm syndrome with our pain. We almost kind of have to go, oh, well, you know, we'll get on with it. And you lessen how bad it is so that you absolutely, for other people, you don't want them to know. But I think, sadly, they know better than we do how bad it is. they can see the signs before we admit the signs.
Oh yeah, especially those closest to us, like my poor long-suffering wife. She just knows. She knows before I've really, my warning is like when I'm really in a lot of pain, I'll get a lot of jaw ache and a lot of neck ache, and that's from where I've been tense. And that was one of the things I learned from pain management. I thought that was a separate issue. I'd gone to the doctor about it, and they're like, no, you are literally in fight or flight. You're braced for shock, sort of mode. But she will know way before I pick up on those triggers, and yeah, because we just internalize everything, don't we, with it?
This, right? It's funny because I was part of a research project about peer support for spinal cord injured people, and you basically getting us all together and talking about our experiences, and there was a study that said how beneficial this was and how it should be part of the treatment path. And I know from my time with this group talking about mindfulness that this is the other thing, stuff like this, what you're doing, and this sort of why the internet ability to make peer support. But peer support is so important because just talking to you, we're sharing experiences that we've probably kept to ourselves for a very long time. Yeah. And then you start saying, oh, well, I do this, I get this. And it's like, oh, and it's weird that like I get really bad pain in my shoulders that I genuinely been putting down to, because I've got terrible arthritis in my shoulders. Wheelchair's not good.
Oh yeah, that must be fun. Yeah.
and then like you're saying that, and I'm thinking, well, actually, also when it hurts, all my shoulders tense, all my back tenses, and I'm used to pulling my back muscles, but then my back's so knackered. I always think that's down to the fact my back's all deformed, but it's probably all because I'm in pain, so I'm tensing, and doing things is harder because you're doing it against pain.
Yeah. And it's like being in a state of frustration, isn't it? It's like, if you're having a bad day at work and you're stressed everything alike at the end because of that, and I think that's how I am when I'm in a lot of pain. Yeah.
And I think the thing is so talking to you, you've helped me, someone who's been living with it for 42 years, realize something I do, something that happens to me that actually isn't what I thought it was, it's something else.
Yeah.
And I think that this is why it's so important. New treatments, new ways of coping. I started doing yoga. Everyone, have you tried yoga?
That's a common joke in the arthritis, like, only because people ram it down your throat. Yeah.
No, I also haven't tried mung beans. I don't eat beetroot.
Turmeric.
Turmeric. I tried turmeric because someone said it helped you with pain, so I bought a load of turmeric.
My grandparents used to shove cod liver oil down my throat when I was a kid, thinking that'd fix me as well.
Make my poo bright bloody yellow. So it's like, that's really scary. Oh, what the hell is going on? But yoga, like, I mean, I can't do proper yoga because obviously being paralyzed, there's a lot of stuff I can't do. So I've got like some videos of me doing various types of sort of wheelchair yoga online. And that has helped because it allows me to stretch much, because when you're in pain and you're in a chair a lot, you sit in the same position, so you tense in the same position, so all your muscles end up a weird shape. So yoga allows you to move muscles that you don't normally move, and also it's sort of weird because you're doing something where you kind of do, here's a movement for 10, there's another movement, and you do all that, and that means you're not thinking about
exactly that distraction.
And it means you move your joints better, you stretch out your back. So I do think that's good. And like I said, mindfulness, it's great. I do it less and less as I've got away from when I got taught it, just because, like I said, it's so much bloody effort.
Oh, yeah, it's a fight. It's like living with pain. It is a fight. And I think what's important for anyone listening to this back or watching it live is like, there's different chapters of my life where it's worked more or less as well. So at the minute, my new thing is when I'm struggling, especially during the day at work, or whatever, and everything gets a little bit, I say I get overwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed with work. I'm overwhelmed with the pain. But then the littlest thing I sprinkled on top of that is my breaking point. And I'll go lie on the bed, and I found a Spotify playlist at work. So I put it on my chest because I like the vibration, and it works for 20 minutes, and then I'm back up again. Now, if you would have told the Joel 10 years ago that was going around playing in bands and had a mohawk that listening, doing that would be my thing, I'd have laughed me out of the room.
You know what? I think one of the things is we are taught by society that we need to overcome.
Yeah.
And we fight and we fight, and we feel bad about our family members being involved in it, and we're trying to stop them from being impacted, and it's all about we're brave little soldiers, all of us, kind of overcoming. And I think as you get older, you start to realize that isn't always the best way to be, that there are times when it's absolutely the right thing to just turn to your partner, your friend, and cry and give in and let it wash over you. The complete and utter knowledge that you are going to die like this, probably. Do you know what I mean? That at the end of the day, when it's chronic, because I think that we've been lumped in with lots of other things that are bad. And with the panic about addiction and opioids and
everything going on in America,
that we've been really badly served, and so people, the medical profession fix shit. We aren't fixable, a lot of us. So they don't like us because they can't make us right. And we don't want to be right. We want to be less wrong. And I don't forget that. We're happy. I'm happy with the level of pain that most non-pain experiencing people would be screaming and rolling around the floor. But that's good for me. I'm like, that's great. I just, kind of, like I said, broke a leg, fine. Got on with it, lovely. Great. This is stuff that just you wouldn't be able to put up with. And I think
you wouldn't wish it on anybody. It's totally different, isn't it?
Do you know what? I always think it's funny because you go through life and you go, I won't wish it on anyone. And every now and again, you're watching telly. And they're normally politicians. And you think, or
I could share that for 24 hours.
Or they're celebrities that have now discovered that they've got something wrong with them. And they're talking about the nightmare that they're experiencing.
Don't even get me on that. When you spend 24/7 doing the work that we do, and then one celebrity comes out with they've got chronic pain or something, and then suddenly all the patient orgs and everyone rushes to share that story, and they haven't got the backstory. They've got no context. They're at the start of that journey.
I mean, I think the thing. I mean, I don't. One of the things is I always think is they go, I've got chronic pain, and then you find out what it is. And I don't like playing top trumps because everyone's worst pain is their worst.
Yeah.
But you kind of go. So what you mean is you've all jumped on this person who's got, this is hobbyist level. Welcome to the club, love. It's horrible, I know. But you can get that managed. I think that there for a lot of us, we're talking about a level of pain that, I was given like about last year when it got really, really bad again. I was given all manner of, drugs and God knows what. And even when they're at their best, the best they can do is cut it by half. Do you know what I mean? And so it's like, so, and when to get people to understand that like, if I take all the drugs I've got, if it doesn't kill me, that's what I love. Is they give you enough to kill you, and you're like, so what? You don't take 1 milligram more than that, because otherwise it could be bad.
And this is the mad thing. Bearing in mind, like me and you have both already said tonight on this show that we are only like in that sort of suicidal state when we're in these places, when these things are being prescribed as well. That's another topic.
I have a cupboard that's filled with all of the various drugs I've been given, say, over the last 5 years. I don't throw them out. I've tried them. Gabapentin, that's rubbish. All that stuff
just means you can't get up in the morning, in my opinion.
I love the new one recently that all the antidepressants we got given, they don't work at all. Studies have found that absolutely we've been all weaned off opioids and given antidepressants, and they don't work.
They were never designed for pain in the first place, and funnily enough, they don't work.
I told you that.
Totally.
Have you tried amitriptyline? Oh, yes. 5, 10, 15, 20.
Done absolutely
20,
nothing
30.
for my...
You're now tripping your balls off, but you're still in pain. Oh, he doesn't seem to be in pain. No, it's because it's like giving him 2 really nice old-fashioned E's from the early wave days. He's off his box. He's still in pain, but he's going, woo.
I generally wanted to jump out the window the first time I took a proper high dose of that stuff, and the doctor said, do you think we need to change the dosage? No, you need to throw it in the bin.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
does
I've
nothing
got
for me.
one that's it begins with a D. I can't remember it. And it's this little blue and yellow capsule, right? And I took one, no pain, or ability to move for about 12 hours. So I sat in my own piss because I couldn't get to the bottom on the sofa.
I'm only laughing because I can
Absolutely-
relate.
I mean, like proper,
Yeah.
Woodstock knackered off my bollocks, right? And they did it work? No, I took one. Oh, you need to take more than one. No,
Oh, yeah, that's the bit.
Become addicted to
Yep.
an antidepressant that is
Yep.
so strong that can you imagine? I mean, coming off amitriptyline's a pig, but
Yeah,
coming
horrible.
off because this is the other thing that they never talk about. Our pain isn't constant.
No, it's a
like,
totally fluid thing.
They give you all this stuff. And they go, well, take this, and you're like, yeah, but I need something that stops the bad bits. So I mean, I don't know about you, but mine goes like this. So I can be great one day, shit, and
yeah, and I like just knowing I've got something to turn to. I think you hinted at it a bit earlier. Like, I don't want to be on this stuff all the while. I just want to have something that if it gets really bad, so I don't go into that. Like you mentioned, I think the term you used, blow my brains out. We're laughing, but it's only because this is our experience. You want something in your toolkit that you can go to, don't you? You don't want it all the time.
Toolkit, brilliant. It's exactly what it is. It's like you want. What I do is I take something for the normal background because it's and that what I take is 3,500 cocodamol every 3 to 4 hours. So rather than the dose of 2, I take 1, and that's just enough to take the edge off. I've been taking cocodamol now for 20 years, so I am royally addicted. In the same way that you can be addicted to insulin, in that my life would be unlivable without it. Yeah. But that's it. What, like you said, what I need is to then go, oh, it's got really bad. Where do I go next? And there's never anything else because they'll go, have you tried tramadol? Yeah, tramadol is great, but it's more of the same. You're just
it does nothing. If I'm on cocodamol, tramadol on top, just it does nothing. And I think this is where I think the medical community got to work with us a bit, because like we were talking about earlier with pain management and stuff, if when you're ringing up your doctor and this sort of stuff and they're not asking about the impact on your life, they're not asking about your caregiver, they're not asking about the support. Like, one of the things they gave me completely messed me up and made me suicidal, and it happened to be at a time when my wife wasn't around. Now if they would have brought that into the conversation, we could have planned for that and I could have been in a safer place. So I think when my rheumatologist,
but one of the things is they have no experience of it. I'll never forget the first time I went into hospital and met a psychologist who was a wheelchair user. And it was the most liberating experience I've ever had. I could talk to her on a level of shared experience about stuff that really I hadn't really talked to. Whenever you talk about anyone, non-disabled people, they don't get it. And I don't care what anyone says. Pain clinics need an expert who lives with pain to come in and shape, not... you can have a patient group and all that stuff. But I mean, we need to be trained up.
Totally.
Part of that group. Like, you're going to this conference, you're going to be there talking from experience and knowledge and shaping the future. And that's what we need. But we also need a commitment to research. I do a lot of work campaigning against assisted suicide. And it's because we know the truth about pain management. So saying that there are people out there that are in unbearable pain that should be assisted to die, we know that the management isn't good enough. So you're basically shooting the horse without ever trying to fix the broken leg. You're just going, it's broken leg, bang. And we need to, if we lived in a society where you could be in pain and you could get it treated and it would be affected, I'd be all aboard. Because I'd say, right, if it's your choice, fine.
Yeah, and you've gone through all of them steps. Yeah,
because like we've said, us two people, and everyone watching will be the same. We've got to a point where I cannot take this anymore.
Yeah. You're looking for an out, aren't you?
That's not fair. Yeah. That can't be. Well, hello, Mr. Can't take it anymore. Mrs. Can't take it anymore. We can offer you assisted suicide, but we can't offer you actual pain medication that works. Yeah. And to me, that's where all the money should be going onto that. So I think that's, I think if I was, at the conference, I'd be saying, look, it's again, it's better to feel no pain and have that level than it is to feel pain that's so unbearable you think about wanting to not be here anymore, because that's not fair. It's not fair that your solution to that might be, well, why don't you not be here anymore then?
Yeah.
And
And it's not fair on everyone around you as well. Like,
No,
I know when I'm in that place, it's far more painful to my wife than it is to me, because we're at that point where we literally see no other option. So it doesn't hurt us because we're that desperate. It's the people around us that are in that much pain from it, isn't it?
I don't know what your wife, but my poor wife is useless, because she's in our relationship, she's much more of the man than I am. So she's the fixer. So she's always trying to fix me, and I'm like, I can't be fixed.
I'm glad you added context to that line.
I need you to hug me and stroke my hair like a cat and just go there, and then tomorrow I'll be fine. But instead, she's running around finding solutions.
We talk about it all the time on this show about getting people to try and say, what do you need me to do to help? No, don't offer yoga and all the stuff we've talked about tonight, because they have their places, but you offering it in that moment is just going to make me fly. So just say what. So like today, it's been stressing me that our garden was getting out of control. We made a start. I got 10 minutes in. I said to my wife, can't do it anymore. She finished it. Now she knows full well that me seeing that out the window breaks me. There's a pride thing, and I used to be able to do it, and I like my gardening. But she took the pressure off. And now when I get up in the morning and go outside, I'll see one less thing to, grate on my pain.
I will say there is a mindset thing about that. See, what you should do is be like me, because I'll never forget when my wife and I got together, we moved into a flat together, and she put up the blinds, right? And she put on a little vest and some jeans, and got all the belt round with all the tools, and she got up the ladder and she put the thing up, and I remember thinking, cool, that's a bit sexy. I didn't realize I had a workman's outfit fancy for a girlfriend. What you need to do is flip it around.
Buy a tool belt.
In the window, watching her out the window gardening, going, oh, I just developed a gardening fantasy. I think I might have to wait. And go, oh, so could you put on a West Country accent and go, there you go, sir, I finished all the gardening, and I can be the lord of the manor, and we'll have a night there.
Well, that is certainly a different take on it.
You know what? Well, we haven't talked about something I think was really important, is how much it affects your sex life.
Yeah, no, it is true, and we keep saying we're going to have a dedicated episode on that, because it's uncomfortable. I have no issues talking about that stuff, and I'd love to get maybe do a little panel one. If you'd be up for that, Mick, we'll get you back. Yeah, I'll do a little panel round table one.
Especially recently, it's really impacted us, because I think she's terrified of touching me in case it hurts me, and so you end up feeling like they don't love you anymore because they're not touching you. They're not touching you because they don't want to hurt you. Then you don't. Then when you do touch them, it hurts you. So then you go, oh, wow, and they go, oh, wow, and you're like, oh, and and this is the thing, is at the end of the day, we're back to this thing of what we need is effective pain management. And I don't care if it's addictive. We hear about, oh, you'll be addicted, and it's like, look, I've been taking opioids now for pretty much my entire adult life. I was given what was called DF118s, dihydrocodeines, back when I was 18, and they were really strong back then. If you took 8, you were addicted, right? And I used to take them when it was bad, and then I'd spend 3 months getting off them, which was normally about the time it took for it to get bad again. And so I'd be on this cycle of withdrawal and taking them. And then they withdrew them because they were too addictive, and they gave me something else. So I'm addicted to opioids. I'm free. I'll admit, I take opioids. I'm addicted to it, but I'm addicted because I need them. Yeah. So it's a whole mindset shift.
It doesn't mean that you've got a problem as well,
unless they can find a magic cure. A shock to your system where your nerves go back and they can fix your arthritis. They did it, all that great, But in the meantime, can we have something that just fixes pain? And can we have a society that understands that you are in pain? So the person you were on Monday is not the person you were on Tuesday. And the person you are on Tuesday is not the person you are on Wednesday. Yep. And, I'm lucky I've got a flexible way of working. So I will do this. I've done 2 podcasts, one after the other, one my own, now yours.
Very
I'm going to lay down like broccoli after this and be fed pizza, right? But tomorrow I've got work to do, and I'm lucky I can break it into really small chunks so I don't hurt myself. But I've had to talk to my company, my charity, and say, look, I need to do things in 45-minute break blocks and then stop. That's as long as I can do. And we've got that sorted. Lots of people can't. So lots of people are unable to work. And if we had a society that said, we understand what it is that you need, then you could work. You could work from home. You could work, you could meet with people when you could and not when you can't. You could have a flexible way of setting up everything you do. I do a lot of work around this, teaching companies to understand that jobs should be about output, not about whether you're at the office or at your desk or
100%.
in a... Of course, there are always jobs that you need to go to work, but it's unlikely that we're going to go, do you know what, I need to be a plumber, or it's not, it's not for us. But there are jobs that we could be doing. And I always watch the government going, oh, you need to get more people into work. And you're like, yeah, brilliant. Then start building at the same. You've got people, UK government going, we need more disabled people to be in work. And then they go, but people should be in their offices. And you're like, well, then you're never going to get us there, are you? No. So I'm a big believer.
I want to wrap them 2 points you said. You talked about a solution and that one there. And I think what I want to just add there before we wrap this up is like, the only way you fix that is making lived experience part of that solution. So we talked about earlier about people being in pain management. I would say as well, pharma. I think in every single pharma company there should be a patient, the patient engagement, the patient in coordinator. Them roles exist, but they're not put with that lived experience. And the issue I get a lot of pushback at the minute where people say, well, you would say that you're trying to create a career for yourself. I'm saying, no, I would say that because I'm lived experience and I found my voice, and there is millions like me that don't have that luxury of being in front of you right now to be able to say that. You
know what, Joel, that's funny that, because when I went into Access Consultancy, I kept meeting people that went, well, you would say that because you're in a wheelchair. And it was like, yeah, but it doesn't just benefit me, it benefits all people. If you build an accessible world for me, you build an accessible world for everybody. So and then they'd say things like, well, you can't trust you because you're talking about your experience as a wheelchair user, but what about if you're blind? What about if you're deaf? And you're like, yeah, but I'm the expert. You lived experience and training together make the best people. So if you've got someone in, like you said, if you've got someone in a pharma company who's disabled and is chronic pain, I will say, please, everyone that's got chronic pain, you are disabled. Under the legislation,
allow yourself to say that.
You are disabled. Be proud of it. Shout about it, because you are protected under law when you're disabled. If you identify as disabled, you're protected. So be proud of it. If I could walk and run and skip and jump and I was in this much pain, I'd be as disabled as I am because of my wheelchair.
Such a good point. Because I was in a wheelchair as a kid, but it took me years to accept being in chronic pain as an adult to reuse the word disabled. It's so true.
Illness, ME, all of them, all of those that impact on your life. But we could build a world that would be better for everyone if all of us came together. If people with chronic pain were next to people that were visually impaired and hearing impaired and had neurodivergency, we were all disabled by society, and we can build a better tomorrow. And while we are the most, I think, that have the most to do with the medical profession, we want the medical profession to lessen our pain. We also want a society that accepts that pain is not this, oh, well, your life is so unbearable, you must all really want to die. And it's like we've said, when we feel like that, we know we're broken. Yeah. We're not normal, we're broken, but we're perceived by the world that when we become where we really need help, we're actually at our most sane. And I think that's really...
That we're somehow not coping or failing.
When you went the natural thing about being in chronic pain is to want it to end. So death, that's normal. And it's like, no. We know we can live very, very happy lives with a greater level of pain than you can appreciate. It's just when it gets too bad, we'd like to, as you say, open our toolbox and go, here comes liquid injection patch.
And even if it just takes a little edge off, something to help us think straight a little bit more.
Do you know what? I always say, well, when I get my really bad pain and I can't sleep, I go, I want to sleep. And this is it, folks. In the UK, we've got a little a thing called Calms, which is an over-the-counter sort of thing for helping you sleep or taking the edge off panic. I found nighttime Calms if you take 6 along with your painkillers, it does something really weird, and it just takes the edge off, so that you get like a little hour's sleep, and you wake up and it's just slightly less. And I know it sounds silly, but when it is, you're up to 11 and it turns it down to 10, it's enough. So I wouldn't
gives
say
you that ceiling, that gives you that headroom. That's how I explain.
You can buy it in Holland and Barrett, right? So it's not bad.
Are you supposed to take 6 in one go?
Yeah,
Is that the okay?
All this stuff you can't overdose on.
Always read the label, folks.
we're taking painkillers that would kill a horse, right? So you're going to be all right. Your 6, you'll be all right. And it is. I think the maximum dose is 6. So I take 6. Probably more than I'm meant to, but 3 in the day. 3 is great. 3 with your pain medication, and you just feel slightly more.
Yeah, I've never tried them. I'll have to
the thing is, that's it. So it's I mean, even because it's for God's sake, what's it called? When your brain goes and you've got this really great bit of information and you can't remember what it is.
Brain fog is real with chronic pain. Trust me.
It's a type of tea. They basically, there's another, the thing in it that does it is a type of tea that I can't remember. Okay. But it basically, you can buy tea and you can have tea bags that are doing it. In fact, I'll tell you what, because I know it's time to go.
I'm worried about your pizza going cold more than anything.
That's right. So what I'm going to do, folks, is I'm going to leave you by jumping up, running to my cabinet. I'm going to say, talk amongst yourselves.
Brain fog is very real. It really is, Snuffle. It really is.
Valerium.
Valerium, did you say?
There you go. Valerium tea.
Dr. Stewart's. Okay, cool. Yeah, I've not tried that either. I'll look that up. But I say it's just all about that education, finding what works for you. And for some people, that might be masses of mindfulness. For other people, it might be more physical form, and for me, like, distraction's a big thing. So, and I'll find I have to go from the whole relaxed side of things, like the whole, playlist, to the angry side. So sometimes just blasting out really heavy music or thrashing the hell out of my guitar will work just as well as trying to be all zen. Do you know what I mean?
I have comedy films.
Yeah.
I have really, really nothing highbrow. Can't watch Monty Python. No. I mean, really bad American rubbish. The Jerk. I have a film called Corky Romano. Right? It's about a member of a mafia family that wants to be a chef. It's just rubbish. It's really bad. And you put them on, and I just laugh all the way through it, and then I feel much better. And it's weird. So anyway, I will stop waffling because I am.
No, you have. This has been amazing, and I think as well. I just want to say, like, we tried to do these intentionally as like coffee shop chats. I want people to feel like there's people behind the stories, so I don't overplan. I don't sit here with a load of preset questions. None of my guests get their questions in advance, and I was terrified about that format tonight because of your background, Mick, and you've been in your professional TV and stuff like that, and I'm a little Norfolk boy trying to do stuff on the tinterwebs, and you have made it so relaxing, and I don't know, it's just been amazingly good fun.
You're very good at this. I mean, you saw our podcast before. You're much better than we are.
I enjoyed your podcast. I'll put it in the show notes.
We've got to up our game. But yes, so you can watch the MZTV podcast where you want to see that, not next Sunday, but the Sunday after, you could watch that and then this, and it'd be a great evening.
Yeah, we don't even clash, guys. One's on at 6 and we're on at 7. That'll all be in the show notes. Where else can people find you, Mick? So, because I know you've made a big impact looking at some of the chat messages. So, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter. At Mik Scarlet, MIK Scarlet with 1 T. So Mick comes from the 80s where everyone dropped the C. There was Rick Mail and Nick Kershaw, and then there was Tick and Tock, the Roboters, and Mik Scarlet. And the Scarlet, it's not my real name. It comes from joining Equity in the 80s. I had to choose a stage name. And I'm a huge fan of Captain Scarlet, the Jerry Anderson series, because when I was a kid, my mum always said, "Oh, you're like Captain Scarlet because you're indestructible." Because I had cancer and all these other things. And I always thought, well, I'm kind of like a crap Captain Scarlet because he came back as good as he was, whereas I always come back slightly more broken. I'm indestructible, but I'm not kind of, I'm not perfect either. So but that's why I picked that name. So Mik Scarlet, and I don't do as much media stuff as I used to, just because I'm age. I mean, normally shoot from here because I look quite presentable. But now you see me get into my wheelchair, you realise that I've also turned into quite a chubby old bugger. So
trust me, I could steal that crown from you.
All the people I'm telling now are gorgeous, thin young people, evil young people. So, but yeah, so I mean, I'm doing stuff with a charity called Fab, where there's an exhibition on in July called the Disability Expo that's on at the Excel Centre in London for the 6th and 7th of July. So go along to that because that's going to be all stuff about being disabled. And, you know, like I said, we are disabled. So get yourself in on the gang, join the gang, get that support. And also you might, you know, learn something from us. We'll learn something from you, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so that's sort of it. But mostly, as you know, I mostly spend my life addicted to Twitter. And it's a sea of almost consciousness, just waffle all the while. That's my pizza.
Look at that for timing. Right, I will let you go then, Mick. All of the amazing stuff you've said tonight, really appreciate it. And we'll speak soon, all right?
Nice one. See you later.
Bye-bye.